Welcome back to the Happy Homestead. Today is Thursday, August 18th. It's day 18 in the Every Bit Counts challenge. And in this video, I'm going to take you along day by day, and we're going to close out the third week of the challenge. Now, if you saw the last video that was posted, you'll see where we began week 3, and I had canned some tomato sauce and I had some left over. Well, I have let that kind of simmer off and on throughout the evening last night and then again this morning, and it has thickened up nicely. So we are going to use that to make our roasted tomato soup. Now this recipe is on page 287 of the all new Ball Book of Canning. And this recipe is basically some tomatoes in the recipe book. It's tomatoes that are roasted and then pureed, right? I've already got my pureed vegetables along with salt, pepper, and then some onion and garlic that are sauteed in olive oil. And I already have that done. Dry white wine. I actually don't have any white wine that I'd want to put in this right now, so I'm omitting that. Chicken stock or vegetable stock, and then tightly packed fresh basil, which I just went into the garden and got that, about a cup of that. So I'm omitting the wine only because I don't have a good white wine that I'd want to use. And I'm going to use beef stock instead of chicken stock. And I'm not going to do 4 cups worth. I'm going to actually probably do about 2 cups worth because I don't want it to be too liquidy and too runny. I just went to all of that trouble to thicken it up nicely. So that is what we're going to use to make our soup today, and we're going to can it up. So in my canner, I've already got some pint and quart jars warming up with the water. Here's our sauce today. Now I just added some salt, some pepper, some dried oregano, and dried thyme. I just wanted to add a little extra herbs. But you can kind of see it's already a little thicker. I can tell the difference, and it simmered down at least an inch. I'm going to add my 2 cups or 1 pint of homemade home canned beef stock. Those are just little pieces of fat that will melt down. We'll throw a cup's worth of fresh basil in. So I'm going to use the immersion blender now to really blend this up into a silky, smooth, gorgeous soup. I will then heat it really well through. It's just going to stay on the burner here until I see a very low boil, making sure that that is really hot, as well as my jars that are in the canner, so we don't have any thermal shock and temperature change and jars crack. And then I'll jar them up and get them in the canner. And the pints process for 50 minutes, the quarts process for 60. Because I'm most likely going to do both sizes, everything processes for 60. Just making sure I don't see any lumps of onion or basil. Everything looks pretty smooth. You always want to try something before you can it, if that's possible, because you want to make sure it's good, right? Does it need any more herbs? Does it need any more salt? That is really good. Oh my goodness, this is going to taste so amazing with a grilled cheese this winter. The canner just came off the burner. I just moved it aside because my 1 hour processing time is up. And I'm gonna get started on the next thing for today, only because, again, I have all this extra produce from my in-laws' garden that they gifted us, and I'm not gonna let 1 ounce of it go to waste. I have a lot of zebra tomatoes. This is how they are, kind of unripe, and this is how they are ripe. They kind of turn into that golden yellow color. So I have a decent amount of them here, and then I still have some Cherokee purples and some yellows over on the other counter that are still ripening, some that are ripe. I've already started chopping. And would you like to take a guess at what I'm making? Yes, you are correct. I am making salsa. Except this salsa is not going to be canned. This is basically like a pico de gallo, a fresh salsa that I'm just making. Now, I'm going back and forth because I don't know if I'm just gonna make it fresh and then leave it like that and us eat through it this weekend, or if I'm going to ferment it. I haven't quite decided. It probably will depend on how much I make. If I make a decent amount, I may ferment a couple quarts of it and then leave the rest for fresh eating. But right now I've got, I'm gonna get all of these zebras chopped, and then I'm gonna use my food processor to do the garlic, the onion, and the peppers. Now what's so great about this is that every single one of these items, with the exception of the dried cilantro, is homegrown. So we've got 2 jalapenos and 2 banana peppers from my in-laws. I've got 4 smallish bell peppers. I'm just gonna cut off some of the bruised parts, but I wanted to use these first. So this kind of equals 1 big bell pepper. I got these adorable little pimento peppers from our garden. These are onions that we grew on our homestead garden, and this is garlic that we grew on our homestead garden. So this is a purely homegrown pico. So I'm just gonna get everything chopped up and we'll see how much we have. This looks so good. This is the kind of rainbow I want to eat, right? You see those commercials, you remember that slogan for the famous candy, eat the rainbow? This is the rainbow I want to eat. This looks and smells delicious. So all I did was I added some squirts of lime juice, I added salt, ground coriander, a little bit of ground cumin, and dried cilantro. I never have fresh cilantro, so I did dried cilantro. I'm not gonna ferment any of this. There's probably about 2, maybe 2.5 quarts worth. I'm just gonna put it in some jars and put it in the refrigerator because this is not gonna last long in this family. All right, so the jars are out of the canner. Looking pretty good. You can see they actually separated a little bit, but once they cool, I can shake them up and they'll be fine. So overall, we've got 7 pints and 1 quart of the roasted tomato soup. And I've got 2 quarts of this gorgeous salsa that's just gonna go in the refrigerator. There is a little left in the bowl, and I don't mind if I do. Gotta do a little quality control. Oh yeah. That's really good. It's not too spicy, thankfully. However, maybe I should have made it spicy so my kids won't eat it. That's pretty good. That's gonna do it for today. I still have peppers I need to process. I'm gonna do another batch of fermented peppers with the red ones. I've got some orange and yellow banana peppers in the back that I think I might pickle. I've got jalapenos that I think I might stuff again. And I've done the stuffing and the fermenting last week, I think. And then I've got more bell peppers that I'm going to slice and vacuum seal to be used later on this winter. Don't know if I'm doing it today, but still more to do. All right, so I'll see you tomorrow. Hey friends, it is Saturday, August 20th, so it's day 20 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, and I didn't film yesterday. I'm sorry. Life just got busy, and by the end of the day, I was too tired. So it doesn't mean I didn't do anything, because I did. I got another quart of fermented hot sauce or fermented hot peppers going. What else? Oh, over here, I canned up 2 jars of pickled banana peppers, and then I have like a couple of cucumbers that were the last remnants in the garden, as well as a handful of green beans, and so I pickled them up together as dill pickles. So we got 4 pints of stuff pickled yesterday, a quart of fermented hot sauce. I harvested a bunch from the garden, and by the way, if you haven't seen that video yet, you need to see it. And I don't mean that just because it's self-serving. No, you will get a kick out of it, possibly. I had quite the time with my bees yesterday, so click above if you did not see that video yet. But what I'm going to tackle today for you is not only easy and anyone can do it because you don't need special equipment, but it's delicious and useful for your kitchen. And that is basil. I'm going to go in the garden and get some Thai basil that I have growing. This is just regular Italian Genovese basil. And we are going to do 2 things with that today. I'm going to dehydrate both types of basil in the dehydrator. If you don't have a dehydrator, that's okay. Just find some sort of maybe a cookie sheet, a cutting board, right, where you can wash your leaves and then dry them out. And it just may take a few days, but you can do that. You can also do them on your oven on a very low setting. But you can look up how you can dehydrate without a dehydrator. It's totally possible. So we're going to dehydrate both types of basil, and then I'm also going to make some Italian basil salt. It's going to be delicious this winter on our pasta dishes. So this is the Thai basil. It has a very similar look to Italian basil, but a very distinct aroma. Delicious. It gives Thai dishes that really bright flavor when it's topped on top or simmered in some soups. So we're going to dehydrate this so we can use this for some delicious meals this winter. First, I gotta wash it because I can see there has been some sort of bug damage. I don't know if the bug is still in here, but we're gonna wash it. Okay, I've got all of my Thai basil washed and spun here in the salad spinner. I've got some of my dehydrator trays here, and I am just going to throw all of my Thai basil onto one. I think it'll probably all fit onto one. You want to spread it out a little bit. It's okay if it's overlapping. Herbs dry in a dehydrator fairly easily without any problems. Okay, and so in the dehydrator, this one goes. Just remember, if you're doing 2 different types of herbs or basil that look alike, make sure you know where you put each. Because reaching for Italian basil and getting Thai basil may change the flavor of your meal. All right, let's get our Italian basil out. If there's any obvious long stems, you might want to pull those out. I am going to leave about, I'm going to say, a good handful left because I want a handful or so for my basil salt. So I'll save some, about a cup's worth, for my basil salt. And the rest of this goes right into the dehydrator. Okay, so what I'm going to show you with this basil salt could really go with just about any herb that you prefer. Basil, I think, is my go-to. I am going to be using fresh basil from the garden, as you saw, as well as Redmond real salt. Now, this is a 10-pound bucket. As you can see, I got a nice clump in here, but yeah, this is almost empty. It's probably only a quarter of the way full. And I can't tell you when I bought it. It really wasn't that long ago. And you wouldn't think I'd go through that much salt, but apparently I do. And so I just ordered a 25-pound bag of this salt, which I'm so excited about. Let me just tell you, if you're looking for a good salt, please, please, for the love of your own health, get rid of the iodized salt. Okay, I say all this because I think it's important that you know what kind of salt we're using in this kitchen and what salt I recommend you use. And so there is a code down below, Happy Homestead, where you can get 15% off your Redmond real salt order. You will not be disappointed. Literally the best salt. So I'm going to use this salt to make our basil salt. All right, so don't get upset at how simple and easy this is, but that's exactly what it is I'm just taking my fresh basil. Now, if you're washing your herb, you do want to make sure it's fairly dry before you do this process. You don't want to introduce a whole lot of extra moisture unnecessarily into your salt. All right, so I'm going to start, it's about a cup. It's not heavily packed, but about a cup of fresh herbs. I'm going to take a half a cup of my Redmond real salt. And I'm using this little tiny food processor, but you can use a larger food processor also. I can smell it and it smells divine. Oh, look at that. So I have, oh, we missed a leaf. I have this really pretty Weck jar that I'm gonna use for my basil salt. Oh, smells amazing. I just envision using this as kind of like a finishing salt on top of just about any kind of Italian dish you could imagine. But it would also give really great flavor to some sauces, maybe even soups. Because it was not dried, there is a little bit of moisture. I'm going to store this in the refrigerator. And I'll just pull it out as needed. And I'm going to be so grateful that I have this in the dead of winter also, because it is going to add just such a bright level of flavor to dishes. So that wraps up today's preserving for the Every Bit Counts challenge. I will see you tomorrow to see what we do to close out week 3. It's Sunday, August 21st. It's officially the last day of the 3rd week of the Every Bit Counts challenge. And it is a dreary, rainy kind of day, and it is the perfect day to make pasta. I only do this maybe, if I'm lucky, twice a year, and I always look forward to it. So today I'm gonna not only make just pasta, but I am then also going to fill the pasta and make some ravioli. I've actually never made ravioli before. I've got this little kit to do it, but again, it's the perfect time where I can just relax, maybe have a glass of bubbly and enjoy the process. So I am just gonna get started with putting the pasta dough together. Back up a minute. I am filling my ravioli with frozen kale that we had in the freezer from last winter's garden. I've already kind of wrung it out, right? And it's going to eventually go in the food processor. You can use spinach if you have that, like frozen spinach. You just want to get as much moisture out as you can. And I've browned a pound of ground beef. I'm using venison, but ground beef would work. And I added some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, a little onion powder, and a little oregano. And then I had that in a colander in the sink and just wanted to drain out as much of the fat as possible. So we're actually going to be filling our ravioli with the venison, the kale, and do you remember that gorgeous ricotta I made earlier this week. We're gonna use that too. And so that's what the mixture is gonna be, fill the ravioli. So a couple of steps in this process. Number one, make our pasta dough. I would love to tell you I am an expert here at making pasta, but I'm not. I just don't do it enough to be an expert. However, it's not a hard process. So in this bowl, I have 455 grams of semolina flour. Now you're gonna wanna use either all-purpose or semolina, or maybe all-purpose einkorn, but you want what's called a 00 flour, 455 grams. And then over here, I have actually worked out to be 5 eggs, but you really wanna weigh everything. And this is 258 grams of eggs. I have a little bit of a well in the center. And so we're just gonna pour our eggs in. And as we're making our pasta, I'm just kind of gonna start with whisking the eggs and gently bringing in some of that flour. At some point, you'll need to get your hands in and start working it together. And you may find that you need to add a little bit of water, and you only want to do that about maybe a quarter to half a teaspoon at a time, because you do not want your dough too wet. Okay, so the dough has come together. I'm just gonna knead it a little bit before I wrap it in plastic wrap. Okay, that's enough yelling. Okay, so our dough, like I said, it's gonna rest on the counter for about 30 to 40 minutes, and that really lets the glutens relax, the protein relax a little bit, so it's easier to roll out, easier to stretch. Now, while that's relaxing, I'm gonna get the pasta maker set up. Okay, so the pasta maker is set up. I've got the Mercato Atlas 150. I love this machine. It is not a huge investment. I'll link it down below. It's on Amazon. I think I've had it for 2 years now, and it really is worth it if you're interested in making pasta. Now, you do not need to have a pasta maker in order to do this. You can easily roll out your dough, and if you're just getting into pasta making, I wouldn't recommend that you dive right in and purchase everything right away anyways. Roll it out, and you can easily make gorgeous lasagna noodles, right? That would be the easiest way to start. Or even use your pizza cutter and cut out rustic fettuccine or different types of noodles, and then I think that would make a beautiful dish as well. So think outside the proverbial toolbox here with all of the different tools you can have, and just use what you have. I am now going to get my filling in the food processor because I want it to be really fine so that you can get all of the wonderful flavors within each ravioli. Thank you. So what we're looking for here is a very smooth, kind of even consistency. Looks good. Okay, so I have just a little over a pound of ricotta. I'm gonna add an egg. A little bit of Redmond real salt. Pepper. I've already seasoned my beef kale mixture pretty good, so I don't want to add too much more to this. Okay, I think that is pretty good, pretty well mixed. So let's start to roll out our dough. It's done. It took a couple of hours because I had to stop and start for various reasons, but 104 of those ravioli are now in the freezer. So I put them on that sheet pan lined with parchment paper and they'll go in the freezer to freeze individually before I then put them in some sort of Ziploc or freezer bag to keep for long-term storage. Now, with 104 and 4 people, and we do leftovers for lunch, it may only be 1 meal. I'm not really sure yet. I honestly don't know. But maybe between 1 and 1.5 meals. But it was still a good experience, and I'll definitely do it again another day at another time. But that concludes it for week 3 of the Every Bit Counts challenge. I'm looking forward to kicking off week 4 and finishing the month strong. Thanks for joining. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.